Howard Stephen Friedman, in your book, The Measure of a Nation, you compare the U.S. to a number of other developed countries across a wide range of categories. How do we stack up?
Well, overall, we didn't do that well. And interestingly, there was a time when we were the world leader in almost all the areas that I cover in my book. I look at health, education, safety, democracy, and equality. And in most of those areas, at one point, we were one of the leading nations. And for many of them, we're now in last place, at least amongst our comparator countries.
All right, let's start with health care. Will Obamacare fix everything? The Supreme Court says it's kosher. Will that fix the problems that you discuss in your book?
It definitely won't be a final fix. And the main reason why is, while currently the United States spends 2 to 4 times more on health than other wealthy countries and has the shortest life expectancy, this is going to help plug in some of the gaps, but that's not going to control the costs. Right now, there are many factors that are already in place in American society that are driving those costs up. And we're going to need to take some action to adjust that. Of course, Americans themselves have to take some responsibility. We have an obesity rate that's off the charts, and that's about us modifying the amount of food we eat. 1,000 calories a day more than Japanese simply won't do.
You also discuss education in the book. Where did we go wrong and how do you fix it?
That's a terrific question because we did go wrong. We used to have the highest rate of college education in the world. Now we're not in the top 10. South Korea has a number of leading practices. One of them is the fact that, on average, they spend about 220 days of school every year. Meanwhile, most states in the United States spend maybe 180. Far less school, you learn less. But a much bigger thing is they're very selective about their teachers. They take the top quality people to become teachers. They pay them well, almost twice the GDP per capita. In the United States, a lot of the people who go into teaching are not from the top of their college class, and then we don't pay them well. It also doesn't have the prestige. South Korea, it's one of the most prestigious positions. Here in the United States, it's not what it used to be.
Also, you say that democracy is not what it used to be here in the U.S. We started off with George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, some of the greatest diplomats and people ever to walk the earth. So where did we go off kilter?
That's a complicated question. I probably couldn't do that in one sentence. But for democracy, we have a few things. First one is we don't have a lot of people showing up to vote. Compared to other wealthy countries, our voter turnout is much lower. The other thing to realize is the way we vote, we have what's called a winner-take-all system. That's not the norm for democracies. Most democracies use what's called proportional representation, where the distribution of votes matches the distribution of representatives. Besides that, though, there's a lot of other factors that have taken over. The United States, of course, heavily influenced by money in its democracy. We have a two-party system. Many countries have a much more complicated process with more political parties, more options, and a greater voice. They also have something that's called preferential voting. So you can rank order your votes instead of just picking. Lastly, in the U.S. democracy, we have some flaws in our Constitution that we've just not fixed. While many countries have looked to do separation of powers, like we had in our Constitution, no one's impersonating the Electoral College for a reason, as well as no country specifically says if you live in the capital, you can't have a voting representation in Congress. Yet here, we have people living in Washington, D.C. with no voting representation. Democracy has clearly failed there.
This market is
stock tickers market.
Stocks have rallied this year.
We're coming into a Monday where we're going to